Hello, I'm Richard O'Neill, storyteller and author. I write plays, I write children's books, I write all kinds of things, but I wouldn't be able to do it without story. And that's what I'm really delighted to be able to bring to the Saltaire Community Festival is these 3 bite-sized workshop videos on how to tell stories. Now, the first thing we always ask is, what are stories? Well, I think stories are just about everything. If we look at adverts on TV, they are stories. If we look at films, they are stories. If we look at books, they are stories. But I think storytelling was one of the first real communications, if you think about it. Before we had books, before we had anything like that, we had stories. We even passed down news on. And we still do it to this day when you go to the pub, or you go to a restaurant, or you go to a community centre, or even out on the street. We tell our news in stories. So this is what I want to do. In 3 videos, I want to try and help you to tell your stories even better than you tell them now. Okay, so first of all, it's the voice, isn't it? We talk about our voice when we're telling stories, and sometimes people think, well, if you've got a big voice, then people will listen to you. Well, that's not always the case, I find. I think sometimes if you've got a smaller voice and you have a little bit more richness to it, then people are more inclined to listen. So in the later videos, we're going to talk all about that, and I'm going to show you, because storytelling is showing and telling. Now, one of the things we need to really think about in our stories is gestures. Now, we all use them, and that's why I'm sort of holding my hands up in front of you now, because how many times do we explain something to somebody using our hands? So we use the voice. So we often say to people, would you like a cup of tea? And we do the action for the cup of tea. That's really powerful storytelling, because we're hearing it, we're seeing it, and we're actually then getting the idea of what it is. And that's one of the things that we're going to discuss as well. The depth of storytelling, because storytelling is really good fun when it has depth and it gets across our messages. But why use storytelling in the 21st century when we've got all of the other stuff? As I'm doing this now via video to you, do we need storytelling? I think we absolutely do. I think we need it even more. So think about a job interview. You're going along to a job interview. The person who tells the best story is more likely to be able to get their message across and hopefully get the job. What about a presentation if you're at work? You know, do you just use facts and figures, a big long list of those? Or do you tell stories so that people can really get what you're talking about? If you've got children or grandchildren and you want to tell them a bedtime story to ultimately get them to sleep, the person who tells a better story will get the best results. So we're going to talk all about that in the next video. The next video will be the actual nuts and bolts of how to do storytelling. So bring along your best voices, bring along your best gestures, and we'll do our absolute best to get you onto the next level of storytelling. Thank you for listening, and see you on the next video.